we're just finishing up with our fall Breakthrough to Zen retreat out at St. Benedict. We had a lovely group of people out on the river there. So yeah, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was very struck, very impressed by the forests around the center where we were on retreat this weekend. It's, as many of you probably know, a very, very beautiful area with this incredible pure river running right through it. And of course, our tradition comes out of the forest. The Buddha, as a relatively young man, grew totally disillusioned with life and cut off his hair, went into the woods, ended up practicing sitting under a tree, and found his liberation there before going on to share with other people and setting something up which came all the way down to us here today. One of the distinguishing features of a Buddha, one of the things that makes a Buddha, is they work it out from first principles. They do it all themselves. So a Buddha is somebody who, as it were, finds the way and then shares it. Now, the rest of us get the advantage of not having to take it all from first principles. And so we all benefit from having fellow practitioners, fellow travelers, and teachers along the way. I think if you look carefully at the life of every practitioner you can find, there's always, whether a small degree or a larger degree, of fellow travelers within their practice situation. Some people, they practice largely by themselves, but even in those cases, there's a teacher somewhat involved, or perhaps a community. What from the time of the Buddha was called sangha. So for practical purposes, we can't really do anything terribly meaningful without having a sangha. It's been shown that human beings are group animals. Apparently, I expect you know this, if they know the 5 people you spend most time with in your life, they pretty much know everything about you, where you live, your educational level, how rich you are, everything, really. We become like the people we spend our time around. And so it's very, very special when we can recognize a practice community that's been together now for 10 years. In the history of Zen in the United States, actual real practice starts about 100 years ago. So Blue Cliff has been around for about 10% of the history of Zen in America so far. And as the years go on, that percentage will increase, of course. So it's a significant thing. And over that time, I've been privileged to see things grow, things establish, mature, come together. And I was very struck today by the kind of groundedness, stability, and connectedness around everybody packing up, clearing, preparing things to hand back the center we'd been practicing in, there was a real sense of people switched on and tuned in. And that is probably, I think, the biggest single mark of maturity in a sangha, when people start to work together with that kind of one body quality. When we think about 10 years, it's quite a long time. And it's a lot of work to build a sangha from 0 to a decade in. And for that, we have Shinkai Roshi to thank. It's a real achievement. And I can tell you, it's hard, grinding work. You have a very dedicated teacher. Please look after him. When we think of 10 years, perhaps it's quite natural to think or to pose the question, what might need to be in place for things to be growing, flourishing, supporting the members of the Sangha in 100 years? What needs to be there? And so next weekend, we have one of the most senior Zen teachers and practitioners in the United States, somebody who's been around for about half a century in the Zen world and seen a lot of what's gone right and also an awful lot of what's not gone right. A teacher called James Myo Ford Roshi, who both of us have a Dharma connection with. So he's coming here to Blue Cliff to share with us some of the things that have gone well and not gone well so far within American Zen, and also his sense of what we need to be working on so that the roots can go deep, so that what we're doing can be sustainable and sustaining, so that people can continue to benefit from this. People can find the liberation that the Buddha found when he, all by himself, sat under that tree and basically from first principles looked into the heart of things and found that there's nothing fixed, nothing solid, nothing we need to grasp onto. And that when we let go, we find an incredible liberation. When we release, we also receive. When we drop off our clinging, our hanging on, our obsessional clench, what we find is connectedness, peace, joy, and true satisfaction. I strongly recommend, if you have a chance, to come and join us next weekend. We have 2 days of retreat with Ford Roshi. We're going to be here in the hall, but also you can join in online. And we're going to have our fellow practitioners from Europe joining in online as well. This afternoon, thinking about this, I looked up what the Buddha had to say about what makes a strong sangha, a strong practice community. And he gave some teaching right before he died, one of the last things that he taught about. And he suggested there are 7 things to bear in mind in creating and maintaining a strong, mutually supportive sangha. He said a strong sangha frequently meets together in groups. So this sense of showing up. When we're new, we might show up because we get a lot, because it's easier to meditate when we're in company. There might be inspiring people. The environment's nice. But as we become more experienced, things at a certain point flip around. We come to share with the sangha because we have something to share. When we come and practice together in a true training hall, a true practice dojo, it's like stepping in to an engine room. There's a kind of a power, an energy that's discernible. It just gets your motor going, just stepping in the door. And that is set in motion by experienced practitioners coming and building that week by week, day by day. And so when we have got a certain amount of track record in our practice, we are contributing. It's a little bit like we're on a boat together, but certain of us are able to get on the oars, and power the whole thing along. And that's not just the teacher's job. As you develop and ground in your own practice, you have something to share. So we meet together, not just for ourselves, but there's more in the picture than that. Second thing, he says, we join together in harmony, we disperse in harmony, and we do business in harmony. Human beings being what they are, part of having a sangha is having people to drive you up the wall. There's quite a famous saying in Zen, Buddhas appear troublesomely and ancestors teach in detail. Those people who press your buttons are the people who show you there are buttons to press. If everybody's completely anodyne and you don't get a chance to get any of that, then there's a whole raft of learning that gets missed. Nevertheless, our intention isn't to go around pressing each other's buttons. If we can put some attention and energy into meeting in harmony, dispersing in harmony, and then interacting within that time in harmony, that's sort of in line with the Buddha's intention. Third thing, he says, don't change the precepts and abide with the precepts. So if we can operate ethically, essentially. Fourth thing, respecting those with greater experience. So as we practice, we sit together. We all sit on the same level. We sit essentially in a kind of a circle. Every single person here is utterly equal spiritually. And there's also another dimension. There are people who are more experienced than us, people less experienced. And we have, if you like, duties, responsibilities in all planes. And so bearing that in mind, respecting particularly those with greater experience. Fifth thing, he says, don't fall sway to craving. One of the great advantages that we have that may not be instantly obvious compared to more established Buddhist situations and countries is, and our teacher, Zen Master Shinzan, mentioned this at the opening of our dojo in London. He said, nobody's here because there's any money to be made. Nobody's here because there's any fame to be had. That means people are here for pure reasons. And he said, because of that, I'm expecting the Zen masters of the future to come from this dojo. That sense of there not being any particular bad reasons to be here is actually a tremendous blessing. So the fifth thing, not falling sway to craving, not letting those other motivations get a hold. His sixth element that causes a sangha to flourish, he says, cherish the forest depths. What does he mean by that? Well, I think what he's really saying is if we can make sure that we maintain a kind of a retreat quality within what we do, make sure that we individually and collectively have enough time and space within what we do to go back to the beginning, to go back to basics, to strip it all back to where it comes from. One simple human person under a tree. So that retreat quality, that back to basics quality, just keeps things new, keeps things fresh. And then the seventh element that the Buddha recommended is that we base ourselves in mindfulness. So it makes a difference that we line up our shoes as we come in the door, that we don't make a mess around the place. We pay attention to what we're doing. We're acting in a mindful way. And then that transfers into our inner orientation, in which we become mindful and present with the reality of our embodied and mental existence in the moment. As we face that more and more deeply, we come face to face with the fact that it all changes. As we mentioned before, it all comes, it all goes. And the Buddha's claim is that everything on every level has this quality of change about it. Nothing fixed, everything flowing. And the more we let go, the more we, as the Buddha put it, enter the stream. And as we enter the stream, we come home. As we come into our true orientation with respect to reality, we come into our true orientation with respect to each other. The sangha becomes one beautiful flow, as clear and crystal as the Mackenzie River. And the sangha of now is deeply, deeply connected with the sangha of the next 10 years and the sangha of the next 100 years. And so it flows on. So our job individually, in a sense, is to let it come, to let it go, to let it come, to let it go, to take our place within this one beautiful, beginningless, endless reality. And the more we do this individually, the more we do this together, the more we subtly, and even sometimes obviously, affect the world around us. And as we mentioned in our retreat today, the world has probably never needed grounded, awake people as much as it does right now. So thank you so much for your practice. And thank you so, so much for 10 amazing years. So much benefit to so many people.